As a long-time Battlefield fan, I'm more excited for Battlefield 6 than I've been in years. But I can't help feeling cautious about the prospect of what awaits us in just a week's time. Battlefield has had a lot of highs throughout the franchise's life, but it's also seen quite a number of low points as well, with Hardline's poor reception, Battlefield 5 and the impact that had, and more recently of course 2042. With everything that's at stake for Battlefield 6 right now, it's definitely going to be an enormous moment next week, especially with a lot of the elements that are circulating around what to expect, what we're going to see coming down the pipeline as well. It's going to be mental. First and foremost, I'm hyped to be returning to a near future setting again. 2042 took it a bit too far in the future for me, and I think that Battlefield 6 is going to bring it to a modern setting similar to what we've seen in Battlefield 4. And I think that's probably the best place for the franchise, and typically the games that I've enjoyed the most within Battlefield have always been around this similar setting. Alongside that, I think from what we played in the beta and also what they've shown us and people have had access to in terms of the maps and modes and gameplay, it certainly feels like they are trying to return to that sandbox feel that we had in previous Battlefield games without blowing it out of proportion in terms of that scale that we saw in 2042, for example. As long as they keep the cornerstone of the gameplay centered around the teamwork-driven aspects that we all know and love from the franchise, I think we're going to have a lot more success and a lot more enjoyment out of Battlefield 6 as a result. I discussed destruction in my video last week as well, and I think Battlefield 6 is ramping up to be a really good blend of destruction we've seen from previous Battlefield games and what we wanted to see in something like 2042. As long as the physics are map changing enough to really have an impact in the gameplay, then I'll be happy with that. I think the most important thing to note, particularly around something that I'm excited for, is the opportunity for EA and DICE to really nail a live service instead of the fiascos we've had with both Battlefield 5 and Battlefield 2042. On a positive note, we've seen in the past couple of days that they've actually released a roadmap for Season 1 already to the public. And that's going to be starting as soon as October 28th. This is a stark contrast to what we saw with 2042, where they spent the initial 6 months really trying to fix the game and the issues that we had with it, rather than introducing new content. So the game was definitely lacking anything of interest until the first season rolled around, and even at that point, there was still minimal content being introduced then and throughout the rest of the seasons. Looking at what they've already penned out for Season 1, it does seem like they are trying to up the ante both in terms of weapons, but also in terms of maps as well. From my perspective, I want to be seeing at least 3 new maps a season, because that's going to bolster the arsenal that we can play on a day-to-day basis. And in turn, it means the game isn't going to become stale as quickly as perhaps 2042 did for a lot of players. I would be lying though if I wasn't nervous about Battlefield 6 and the implications that it could have for the franchise going forwards. I think that EA and DICE are on pretty thin ice at this point after both BF5 and 2042's real failings, and so they absolutely need to nail the release of Battlefield 6 to try and start an upwards trajectory once again for the franchise. I think this is even more important to note when we look at things like Battlefield 5 and Battlefield 4's launches. Now, I know the developers have changed, certainly since Battlefield 4 to what is in the crew now, but because of the history of the impact of terrible launches on the franchise, they need to make sure that day one they come out the gate swinging. I think things are finally poised in terms of general competition between Battlefield and maybe some of its arch rivals like Call of Duty at the moment. I certainly feel murmurings that people aren't as happy with Call of Duty as they perhaps were in years gone by, and I think that puts Battlefield in an interesting position now to potentially take on a significantly larger fan base of players who are dissatisfied with the other products and the other games that they're typically used to playing. How they go about doing this though and maintaining the core Battlefield fundamentals is going to be crucial for, I'd say, my enjoyment of the game, and likely the enjoyment of those who have been loyal and faithful to the franchise, particularly over the past few years. At least from playing the beta, it felt like the game was relatively well optimized, and I'd like to think they would carry this into the full release, given the fact that they've had ample time to test it and multiple other play tests since the beta as well. Of course, going back to day one though, the servers are going to be hit hard come the 4 PM UK time or 10 AM Eastern time when everything goes live. I've got everything crossed that they're able to pull off a smooth launch for the game and we're actually able to play the game bang on start time. I think ultimately what my nerves boil down to is the fact that I would like a true Battlefield experience, one that is nostalgic and gives me the feeling that I had when I played the likes of Battlefield Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, but also showing what they can do in a modern setting and with modern hardware, modern visuals and modern gameplay. Some of the marketing has been questionable in my opinion, particularly the jabs they've taken at Call of Duty. I appreciate the jokes behind it, but typically I would like to see the actual games do the talking rather than banding things around from a marketing department. And again, I hope that isn't trying to set expectations too high, because I think we know what happened after 2042's marketing versus the game we actually got. With all that being said, Battlefield 6 definitely feels like a make or break release for both EA, DICE and the franchise as a whole. I'm cautiously optimistic about what we're going to receive. It could be the Battlefield we've all been waiting for, but we also said that about 2042, so I'd like to think I'm not going to get too swept up in the hype train just yet. Overall though, let me know what your thoughts are on Battlefield 6. Are you excited? Are you nervous? Are you skeptical? Let me know in the comments below. But come next Friday, the 10th of October, you'll know where to find me. I'll be live from release time for 12 hours, so come join us and have some fun on the battlefield. As always, a big thanks to my Patreon members. Thanks so much for supporting the channel as we head into this brand new era. If you're interested in keeping up to date with Battlefield 6, hit the like and subscribe button. And as always, I thank you very much for your time, and I'll catch you in the next one.